All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Ben Currin on the show. And Ben is the CEO of Vantaca. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
You bet, brother. So a little bit about Ben. He lives in Wilmington, Virginia with his wife, Suter, and two young children, Virginia and Jack. Ben was actually a fast attack nuclear submarine officer for the world's finest Navy. So a man after my own heart. We're both brethren, killing it in the ocean. So thanks for your service, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. And Wilmington, North Carolina, not Virginia, but my daughter is Virginia. But yeah, in the submarine life, I did spend some time up in Virginia in the Norfolk area on submarines and enjoyed every minute of it.
Is that where you're home based out of?
But yeah, that's where I was home ported out of when I was deploying the Norfolk area, but spent time in Charleston, doing some training and testing down there, and then up in Connecticut as well, but most of the time in Norfolk, Virginia in the Navy.
Very cool, man. So a little bit more about Ben. He's the CEO of Vantaca, and they are a high growth national software company headquartered in Wilmington, North Carolina. Under Ben's leadership, they have grown from inception in 2016 to be the national leader in community management performance software. Now employing approximately 150 team members, serving more than 3.5 million homes nationwide. So very impressive, processing billions of dollars of homeowner and vendor payments annually. Ben was actually recognized as the Coastal Entrepreneur winner for technology and the Wilmington 40 under 40 list. So first of all, congrats on that, man. And on a company level, Vantaca was recognized by Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies in America, #2 software company in North Carolina, and a Vet 100 recognition as one of the 100 fastest veteran-owned businesses in the nation. So again, fantastic to have you on the show, man. Your company's you're out there doing amazing things. Before we dive into your company and your journey, what's one interesting fact that not many people know about you?
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, we've got a really cool team, and that, like, any of the kind of recognition or accolades are a huge reflection on the group of almost 150 folks that we've got. So
that's awesome.
But thanks for recognizing that. And then interesting fact that not many people know. Well, you mentioned submarines. I think there's a lot of folks that don't know that I ever lived on a submarine, kind of doing science projects underwater all over the world. So you took that one. After that, I mean, it's funny, we talk about Vantaca being community management performance software. What the heck does that mean? It's really,
right.
It's HOA and condominium software. So we provide, software services to HOAs all across the country, millions of homes. And until very recently, everywhere my wife and I had ever lived, we never lived in an HOA. So as kind of someone whose whole career and whole focus professionally is HOAs and management companies and how to deliver, services to homeowners that live there, I never did until very recently. And so, yeah, new experience for me.
Very cool, man. So how does a guy who his history and background is nuclear officer, right? Nuclear submarine officer. How do you end up getting into what you're doing now? Walk us through that journey, man.
Right. Yeah. So probably, I don't know if there is a normal path after.
There's never a normal path
after being in the nuclear Navy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the more expected path or the more predictable path is doing something in, civilian nuclear power generation or going back and, a lot of folks go to business school afterwards and then go to business. I just really, I wanted to get to work right away. So, the idea of going to business school after getting out of the Navy wasn't super interesting to me. Always felt really motivated to do something entrepreneurial and grow a business and be part of a team that's really building something. And also have always been very interested in technology and software and really believed in that world. And after that, there was a lot of kind of serendipity that led me to Vantaca. As I was preparing to exit the military, just really started networking with folks who were working on ideas and early stage companies, and just happened to get connected to the founding couple members, the small, I think there were like 4 or 5 folks at the time, the founding team of Vantaca that really were working on a kind of software idea that was getting ready to become a software company. And I love the team, was super inspired by their vision and their talent, and then fell in love with the industry pretty quickly. It's an industry with a lot of opportunities for improvement through technology, and that intersection had me pretty fired up.
Gotcha. Oh, very cool, man. So Vantaca provides software for HOA community management. So it's basically almost their back end operating system.
That's exactly right. And what the folks who maybe aren't in the industry or don't have experience in it often don't make the connection. Our direct customer is the management company itself. So, there's thousands of management companies across the country who specialize in managing HOAs and condos. And that's everything from collecting homeowner assessments and paying vendors, but also helping with governance of the communities, helping with that communication, just making sure the communities are run well and the value is preserved in those communities. So that's exactly right. We're the back end operating system at the accounting level, but also bill collection, payment, communication, workflow, automation, reporting. Basically, the whole tool set that a management company needs to run is run through Vantaca.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Very in depth. So, I got to imagine that you guys going into this space, there was already other companies in the space doing this, right?
That's right. It's if you look at from a software perspective, people talk about vended versus unvended or the green space out there. Most of the industry is using something for at least their accounting. Maybe they're using a Frankenstein of software solutions where they plug in a bunch of point solutions to kind of put together a patchwork. So there aren't many end-to-end solutions for software out there, but almost everyone is using some kind of legacy accounting solution. And oftentimes those are kind of hosted on-prem and aging solutions. But yes, there are certainly other software solutions out there.
So they were using like maybe some accounting software solutions, and maybe the business, or at least that software solution, kind of revolves around accounting, but it doesn't really revolve around the rest of the business functionality. And so you guys are kind of combining a lot of that into one.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's our vision is to serve all those needs for the management company and do it well in one single place. Or if there are other solutions that are needed, do it through really complementary integration rather than kind of a janky, go log it here and log it here and duplicating work in that way. So that's exactly right. It certainly is a more robust, full tool set for a management company.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you were talking a little bit before about the transition from your career as a naval officer. Like for me, I got out and I became an engineer at a power plant. Well, as when you were nuclear officers, that's what we know how to do. So that's what I did. And for you, it was very different. You almost purposely went away from that to jump in the deep end into something totally different.
That's right. There were many things that through my experience on submarines and in nuclear engineering that I loved. I love solving complex problems. I love working with smart people. All that stuff. I love being on a high performance team. There are a lot of things that I realized that I was not passionate about. I am not a passionate nuclear engineer. I like that part of it.
We got that in common, brother.
That's right. But I felt like that transition, we all have a number of transitions in our life professionally. And I felt like it was an opportunity to try to find and build something that I could be really, really passionate about. And I'm really lucky in that I connected with the team early on and really lucky with how the team has grown as well.
Cool. So walk us through that. So, you got out and gosh, how long have you guys had the company now? It was
2000. So Vantaca was kind of founded 2016, and then spent about a year beta testing the product, and then late 2017 is when we first went to market. and kind of started selling it to management companies. And that's also when I got plugged in as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you guys have investors?
We do. We actually we spent the first number of years really intentionally bootstrapping this thing along.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Which was great. You know, it's I refer to that stage of company growth as the rock fight, where you know you're really just figuring out things and moving just at the pace you can, which I'm really grateful for that time. You know, a lot of software companies go out and raise a ton of venture money really early on.
Yeah.
I see people often have to make compromises about the long-term decision making if they do that for kind of short-term results, and we really have always thought in a very long horizon. So we waited a long time, really until 2022, to go raise any outside capital, and did that, you know, raised a minority kind of investment in 2022 to allow us to really, now that we built the engine, really invest in the growth and future. So invest heavily in product development, engineering to push the product faster in the direction we want to go.
That's very, very interesting that you guys made that decision. It sounds like you had some counsel on that. I would think most people coming in early on be like, hey, yes, let's go get that VC money. Let's get it coming as fast as possible.
Yeah, there were a lot of folks who told us we should do that, and so we were either lucky or smart that
Nice.
you know, I think it worked out very well that we did not, because we've just been able to be laser focused on our customers for the long term, you know, and that's been the only thing that matters. So yeah, I think we got good advice and went with our gut, and you know, had a little bit of luck involved as well, I think.
No, I mean, you guys made the right decision. I can't tell you how many horror stories from other CEOs that come on the show. I always ask, you know, what's some of your, you know, biggest failures that you learned from as a CEO, and I probably at least 50% of them are aligning with the wrong type of investor too early on, and again, the other half is, you know, wrong hires.
That's right.
Cool. Awesome, man. So, you know, in our pre-call, I was asking, you know, what's some of the topics that have helped you be most successful, and you commented that, you know, really focusing on building out your executive leadership team.
Yeah, that's been, you know, there's that growth of the team in general. Obviously, going from a company of just a couple folks to now, you know, almost 150. That growth is a lot, but I think especially in the role of CEO, building out a really solid leadership team and doing it slowly over time has been one of the things that has been most important to get right, that I've also enjoyed the most. Not only because you're building out great partners to you, but for me, I've always wanted to think of, you know, the phrase who rather than how, and finding people that are much smarter than you in their domain, and then give them the tools to be successful and get things out of their way. So I've really enjoyed that, and it's allowed me over time to spend more and more time on the big strategic constraints on the business and how to you know, remove those, rather than try to do something that someone else, like a great CFO or a great chief product officer, would be much better at that than me. So I've really enjoyed that.
And it's kind of funny, you know, we were talking about this before too, that, you know, we come from this environment in the nuclear industry where we call it, you nuke it out, right? I mean, you figure it out. And so I was really raised, and this actually hurt me, and it sounds like you kind of learned the lesson early on, that we're just so used to just figuring it out ourselves. And when go ahead.
Well, so sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good, man.
I think there's two beneficial sides to that. One, like nuking it out and figuring it out can be really good, because I do love to dive in the deep end of the pool.
Absolutely.
So, okay, here's an opportunity to utilize new technology in our cloud environment and optimize that. And that's, you know, at first, that's not my background necessarily. So diving in deep and wanting to learn that is really good. But then also, you know, being able to delegate and say, okay, I can get the constraint out of your way. Let me empower you to do it. But I love, there's a quote, and I don't know who this is from, but there's maybe a phrase I should say that I really like, and it kind of reminds me of the nuclear Navy, and it's, you gather data with your eyes. So instead of like, oh, I hear that and tell me, it's like, I want to see it. I want to know what that is. Show me what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
get in enough to understand it, and then like let the team really rock and roll.
Yeah. Love it, man. I love it. You had kind of talked about, building on this and building out your team and your executive leadership. One of the things you said you're most proud of is the culture and the career growth and personal development of your team. What kind of things have you done and are doing to create that culture?
Well, it's a thing we think about all the time, and
Yeah.
I feel really grateful that as we've built out our team and
Right.
especially built out the executive team, I've had more time to think about that and work on that.
Mm.
And we're certainly not perfect, but I think what we endeavor to do is really separate, again, thinking of like concepts, thinking of the concept of the right person in the right seat. We think a lot about the right seat early on in businesses, where we got to have the technical skills. You got to have someone to build it and someone to sell it and to market it.
Right.
And we focus on that. And I think most businesses do a pretty good job of finding the right, the person, the seat fit or the skills fit. Like, does the resume match? Are they executing? But I
Right.
think a lot of times everyone, including us early on, maybe under indexes on the right person side of that equation. Like, do they fit with the company culture? Do they share the right core values? Are they a great teammate? Do they make the people around them better? And we've really worked on that, having that kind of being the right person, sharing those values and adding to the culture rather than subtracting from it, being the number one filter for folks on the team. And we use that to retain and promote and recruit. And kind of the secondary, but also important, is are they in the right seat? Like, because we can train people on skills and we can develop them, and they can move into new roles if they don't fit there. But really letting that right person philosophy kind of govern, how we recruit and retain and promote.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you have this culture and you're using that in your hiring process, because you can train anybody for skill sets, right? You're hiring for culture primarily. Of course, they have to have a certain amount of skill set, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's obviously role dependent, but I guess the way I'd put it is the cultural component, the people component, the team component is the non-negotiable portion. Like that's a must have. The skills for certain roles, you've got to have certain skills, obviously, but those can be and will be developed over time. And you may start in one role. You may start on our customer success team or our implementation team and find yourself as a product manager 3 years later because you learned so much about the product and the industry. But being the right person, having the right kind of culture and willingness to be a part of a team is very important to us.
No, very cool, man. So you said the next milestone for your company is 5 million doors served. That's fantastic. What do you think are going to be, the biggest things that you're going to be focusing on as a CEO to get the company there?
Well, there's a number of things. I'll talk. Just what's funny, we set goals together as a company, and that's, again, part of our culture is alignment around kind of big, hairy, audacious goals. So every one of us here could tell you, hey, where do you want to be in 12 months, 3 years, 5 years? And what does the company look like? How many doors are we serving? How many manager companies? What does the product look like? Everyone's in lockstep there.
So you're saying everybody on the team knows all of those goals?
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic, man. You talk about it like it's not a big deal. I just want to bring emphasis to that. Most companies don't have that lockstep that you're talking about. I just want to recognize you for that and give a little highlight to it. That's fantastic, man.
It's been vital to our ability to perform as a team. Like that understanding, and with that understanding, it's amazing what people can do creatively, and that's not just within a strategy to make that happen. The phrase we use all the time, again, a fun quote, Peter Drucker quote we throw around a lot on our team, is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think that's, if we're all laser aligned to what those big goals are, then even if something is way outside whatever our strategic plan is, or our KPIs for the year, we've had some amazing creative results because people
Yeah.
understand the why and the plan. But to answer your question, like what's going to get us there, I think the number one thing is what we just talked about, the company culture and the people being empowered to do it. We've got, just under 150 really smart people who are empowered to take risks and at times make mistakes, as long as we learn from them and iterate, innovate, and go after it. So I'd say the most important thing is that. And then, maybe right there beside it, if that's number one, kind of 1B would be the relationships and partnerships with our customers. We're so lucky to have really great, optimistic customers who are willing to share, constructive feedback and take risks with us and try new things and push us to be better. So that's phenomenal. Those relationships are super important to us, and they push us forward in a great way.
Cool, man. Awesome. So if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book that you'd require he or she read before taking over for you, and why?
I love this question. If anyone on the Vantaca team who watches this will laugh when you ask that, because
they already know.
I just know, not maybe they might not know the book, but I am a notorious book recommender, and I love to read, and I try to stop myself, because I'm like, I recommend books often. So, but if I had to boil it down to one, which would be tough, I'd want to give them a stack instead. But if I was recommending one, it would probably be The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. And for a bunch of reasons. It's a good book. It's kind of a fun read. It's a fun kind of business book read, but Ben Horowitz, super successful now. A lot of folks know him in his role at A16Z and kind of the venture capacity, but he had a lot of struggles and setbacks as a leader and an operator in businesses, and a lot of failures before he became very successful. And so I think it's just it offers a lot of perspective on his journey. And I think more than anything else, like the thing that sticks with you from that book is like grit and perseverance and willingness to be optimistic and fight through tough times and do it with a team that you want to do it with, is really valuable, because even in the best of times, there's challenges and there's setbacks, and maybe you just don't feel like you're moving fast enough. And sometimes there's real challenges, but it's a great book, great perspective. And I think that's an important topic.
Oh, fantastic, man. Thanks for the recommendation. And for those, if you haven't read it, it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it as well. So I want to take a couple of minutes and summarize some of my key takeaways from our time together, Ben. One is your choice early on to not bring in investors, specifically to kind of allow yourself to bootstrap, so you don't have to make compromises about your decision-making capabilities when the time comes for exits or really anything. And so you guys were able to bootstrap it and then kind of get a clear direction, and then really strategically bring on investors. I think that's very, very, very wise. And in order to do that, though, you have to be willing to postpone that rapid growth for a while, or postpone that hockey stick growth. And that takes a lot of patience and a lot of strategy. Something else I thought is a fantastic takeaway is who rather than how, right? Surrounding yourself with people who are better than you at whatever given field you're talking about. And so the last one that I'll bring up that I thought was just fantastic, and you talked about it nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, it's just, everybody on my team knows our short-term, mid-range, long-term goals, knows our BHAG, right? That is absolutely fantastic. And I know 100% that that's part of the reason why you guys are so successful, because you are focusing on things like that, where culture does eat strategy for breakfast. Another fantastic quote. So Ben, let me ask, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from today, what would that be, man?
I think the most important thing for me is at the end of the day, it's all about the team. right? We talk about ourselves as a team. It's fun. It's fun to be on a team. It's powerful to be on a team. A team will support you. A team will be creative. It's not about the strategy. It's not even necessarily just about the product or anything else. It's about the team. And cultivating a great team and culture is incredibly important. So I think that would be my one takeaway.
Man, I can't overemphasize that enough. Every the biggest CEOs, the most successful people say it's all about the team. It's all about that culture. So that's awesome. Hey, Ben, if any of our listeners wanted to reach out either for services or perhaps investor or perhaps any questions from today, what's the best way they could do that, man?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of Vantaca, like check out our website if you're interested in that side, vantaca.com, Vantaca. And obviously, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Ben Currin. So find me. I'm happy to connect.
And we'll have your profile link. We'll have Ben's profile link in the podcast page. And real quick, before we wrap up, I want to ask, how'd you guys come up with the name Vantaca?
Oh man, that's a funny and longer question, which we actually talked about at our conference this year. It was kind of a almost comedic thing, but it was going to be named something else. Short answer, it was going to be called Micah, My Community Assistant. Think back like 2016, the Microsoft Office Assistant could help you do all this work, and now that's probably even more appropriate with all the Chat GPT stuff. But that domain name was taken. And so like any good marketing exercise, you throw a bunch of words like advantage and community
together,
and they came together and became Vantaca. So my bad joke for that is Vantaca is Latin for really great software. But, that is not true. So yeah.
But I could see you got advantage in there. There's community. There's kind of cool.
That's awesome. Right. That's right.
Hey, Ben, brother, thanks again for being on the show, man. This was fantastic.
Yeah, Patrick, thank you for the time. Grateful to be here.
We'll stay in touch, man. We'll definitely have you back on and follow your growth and success. So yeah, absolutely. For the audience, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing. We're helping the next generation of leaders and CEOs be that much more successful. With that, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.